Welcome, my name is Albert, and in today's video, we are going to be reacting to a particular video that I feel like has some very important lessons for us as men, right? What am I talking about? Marriage. Now, if you are one of those guys that says, you know what, I want to get married, and I believe that this is a very important video for you. Even if you say you don't want to get married, this is still a very important video for you so that you know what it is that it entails. Okay? So, if you have not already, guys, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you don't miss any of my future videos. Because on this channel, I teach you guys how to become better men and how to improve your interactions with women. Okay? So, yeah, this video is by a creator called Tech Lead, right? He used to be a Google tech lead, and then he was fired, and then he became a Facebook tech lead, and he got fired, right? But all in all, the guy has made a lot of money. He's actually a millionaire, and in this video, he's going to be talking about how he went from like what he learned from his whole marriage process, because he's married and he got divorced, right? And it's actually pretty crazy. If you guys have time, go into his channel and check him out, right? Very interesting story. But the point of this video is what he learned from that whole experience, being married, dating, being married, and then being on the divorce side. And I feel like there's a lot of lessons that we can learn from this. Very important lessons. Okay, and I'm going to be breaking it down as we go along.
Hey, and welcome back with your host, the ex-Google Tech Lead. Hope you like what I've done with this place. I have set all of my RGB colors to red for a little bit more of that romantic theme, because today we are talking about relationships. And as somebody who has gone through an entire relationship cycle from dating through marriage, even to the end of that marriage, I made a lot of mistakes in my life, but I've also learned a lot too. And so I thought today I would cover some of those life lessons I have learned in the hopes that maybe they'll help you in your relationships as well. Because you see, your choice of life partner is one of the most important decisions that you will make, and it will have a dramatic effect on the overall happiness and lifestyle that you will live.
I really believe that. I think that is very important, right? Even let's say you're that kind of guy that wants to have girls in his rotation. Even then, when you're dealing with multiple women, even women in your rotation, choosing which women you decide to spend time with is a very important choice, because trust me, if you choose the wrong woman, even if you're just dating her, it will have an adverse effect on your mental state, especially when you are trying to have a sort of release when you are dating them, right? You don't want somebody taking away from your mental strength and your physical energy, you know? So, very important point.
It's certainly not something to be taken lightly, although I know when I was in my 20s, my head was in the clouds and I thought, well, marriage is going to be happily ever after, whereas in reality, that's not the ending, that's only the beginning where the real work actually starts. And so it turns out, if your interest is in your own personal success, then the right or wrong relationships in your life can have even more impact on you than, say, your financial career. So with that said, let's get into my top tips on relationships. Let's get into it. The first thing to know is that marriage changes the rules of your relationship. And essentially, my belief is that marriage can even work against you. It can disincentivize people to stay in a relationship. Because once you understand the rules about, say, how alimony, child support, and community property divisions work according to your state, for example, you may find that your spouse will be incentivized to leave you in order to gain more control of the finances. So for example, in a state like California, you have community property. So everything that you earn from the date that you're married until the divorce, that's going to be split. There's also alimony, which is spousal support, which is you could be paying your other spouse even after divorce, even after several years, you could still be paying them half of your income just to support their current lifestyle. And then there's of course child support as well, where if you happen to have a kid with somebody, then you could be paying a percentage of your income, say 10% or so, to support the child every single year up until the child reaches age 18. So for example, let's assume you're a software engineer and you marry a poor waitress for say 10 years, and you support her, you give her everything, you give her a nice lifestyle, maybe move her into your house even. And at the 10-year mark or so, this waitress is faced with a very interesting dilemma. She can either continue to hustle and work hard and wait tables, and she doesn't really want to work anymore at this point, or she could just divorce you, and get half of the assets, get you to pay for her lifestyle for the next 5 years or even more, because that's going to be spousal support, alimony. And if she's able to take control of the kids, she's going to get even more money from that. She can basically just go off and retire at that point. So from her perspective, it may just be a good business and financial decision. It just makes good logical sense to divorce you and seize control of the funds so she doesn't have to argue with you. She can spend the money however she wants, and she's able to just retire right there, right now, instead of having to struggle in this relationship. And what's more, she may even be incentivized to take as much custody of the children as possible, because that's going to award her with a higher child support amount. And the funny thing about all of this is that the more money you earn and the less money that she earns, the more incentive she has to leave you. And so there's a saying that the only people who remain married in a relationship are the ones who were not really worth it.
So I wanted to pause there for a bit. I wanted to let it play for a little bit so you guys can actually get the full point, the first point that he was making. And that's why, if you hear a lot of people say that they don't want to get married and stuff, and focusing on their purpose, it's not because they are, quote unquote, some people say, oh, you're just not man enough, you're not grown up enough. No, in the Western world, right, if you live in the Western society, there is a system that has been put in place, right? Not marriage per se, but there's a system that has been put in place that if you were to divorce someone, right, even if you're the person initiating, depending on the situation of the relationship, you could be incentivized to actually initiate that divorce. That is why 70% of women actually initiate the divorces, right? Because most of the time, men make more money than their wives, right? So what incentives? Look, a lot of women want to get married, right? They're like, oh, why hasn't he proposed to me? Why hasn't he proposed to me? A lot of women want to get married. But the same woman down the road, as we know, women change their minds all the time. And then there's an incentive on top of it that if she gets divorced, that she doesn't have to put up with this person, but can still enjoy the lifestyle that she was enjoying with this guy. So think about it. What incentive does this person have to act correctly, to be feminine, to be submissive, to follow your lead? Oh yeah, she'll follow your lead for 2 years when she's in love with you, but when she falls out of love with you and has no more respect for you, what incentive does she have to actually stay in that marriage, right? So these are the things that you need to think about if you're trying to get into a marriage, right? A lot of people, especially women, will try to manipulate you and tell you, oh, you know what, you don't want to get married because you're not mature enough. Look, guys, don't let people manipulate you into doing things that don't logically make sense. Okay? In the Western world and modern society today, marriages, especially when it comes into when you get the government involved, does not make sense. It just does, for men, it just does not make sense. I understand that kids grow up in a healthy two-parent household. I understand that, right? But as a man that on this side of the world, I always tell you guys, focus on your purpose, get your finances in check so that you actually become successful in life. You don't want to get to a point of success in your life where it's like, okay, I'm making all this money and you're just basically saving it for somebody else. That's why marriage, I don't advise it, because look, someone can act right until they get what they want, which is marriage. They'll lock you down into that marriage and then now you guys are committed, right? And she knows if you don't want to lose half of your stuff, you gotta act right. She ain't gotta act right, right? Because we live in a modern world, right? So you have to understand this going into situations. If you want to get married, you have to understand this. Okay? Remember, just because she loves you today does not mean that she's going to love you tomorrow. Let's continue.
Divorcing, they weren't successful enough, basically. And so that's the thing to realize. I think once you get married, the rules of your relationship get rewritten to incentivize the low-earning spouse to essentially leave. And it could be just a matter of time until that happens. And so you want to take steps in order to protect yourself. For example, one thing I would suggest is you have a conversation about a prenuptial agreement in which you determine things like how's alimony going to work, how's community property division is going to work. And essentially, it's going to help to have like a lawyer walk you through some of this process, but you want to make sure that your financial incentives always align with your personal relationship goals as well. So you don't ever reach a point where, say, after 10 years of the relationship, one spouse is incentivized to actually cheat on the other spouse, get the relationship destroyed, and as a result of that infidelity, they'd even be rewarded with some $1 million jackpot lottery. And I know that a lot of people, maybe they're shy about.
Very important. This is a very good point. That's why I wanted to watch this video, right? Prenups, guys. It is very important. Before you even, now again, I'm not advising you guys to get married, but you have to know these things, okay? Even, let's say you ask this woman to marry you. Hey, you get down on one knee, you say, I want you to be my wife, right? You have to understand, before you even you have to let her know, before any phone calls are made to the in-laws to let people know, you have to have a discussion with her about a prenup. Say, look, we cannot get married until we outline the prenup and it is signed. As soon as the prenup is signed, then we can start inviting people. Because you don't want to get down the road where it's like the prenup gets thrown out on some technical nonsense, right? Like if a woman is telling you that she's going to sign the prenup on the day of the wedding, don't do it, guys. Do not do it. Because any contract, it doesn't even matter prenup, any contract that if a person can prove that they signed the contract under duress, that contract will be thrown out, right? So you don't want to be 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, you say, oh, I have a prenup, and then she goes, oh no, I signed it under duress, we had already made all the plans, we've invited people, and I felt embarrassed, so I had to sign the prenup. The judge is like, hey, you know what, that's good enough, duress, and then throw it out, okay? So be on your P's and Q's. Let's continue watching.
Having the prenuptial conversation, they think it's going to ruin the mood, but you need to understand that marriage is it's a financial government contract, and when you're in this type of game, you need to be willing to talk about the finances. If you're not willing to talk about that, then you may not be at the stage where you should be getting married, I would say. And at that point, I would say, you know what, if you want to do like a wedding ceremony, just something for fun to like celebrate your love or whatever, like you can do that, but you don't necessarily have to sign the contract. And to be safe, you may also want to just avoid cohabitation, because sometimes governments will already classify cohabitation as marriage. Okay, moving on to tip number 2, which is...
Also, that was a very important point that he kind of skipped over pretty quick. Some of you might think, oh, well, I'm not marrying her, but if you are living with your girl and you guys have been living for a number of years, right? Just because you guys are not married, some states, some countries view cohabitation as in a marriage, right? So if you have been living with this person, even though you have not been married, you can still be on the hook for things like alimony, spousal support, right? Because they could view it as a sort of a marriage, right? So you want to keep that in mind. Do not, I'm telling you, no such thing as cohabitations, guys. No such things as cohabitations. That's why I always tell you guys, look, getting good with girls is not a thing of, oh, I need to have rotations, right? Some of you guys watching, you're not really interested in having rotations. Maybe you guys want to get that girlfriend or you want to get married one day. Why I say you have to get good with girls is that you need to be able to be in a situation at all times, to be able to date a girl because you choose to, not because you have to, right? There's a big difference. When you choose to date a girl, you know, okay, I know I can get other girls. I have actually done it multiple times. And out of all the girls I have dated or currently dating, this one person is the one. Not, well, I haven't dated anyone in like 10 years and this one girl, well, she kind of likes me, so I'm going to get married to her. No, right? There's a huge difference. So guys, you have to understand, watch out for cohabitations, guys. And also, guys, prenup, very important, guys. Very, very important. Okay, guys, I'll continue the video.
That desire cannot be negotiated, which was an excellent tidbit of advice I picked up from The Rational Male from Rollo Tomasi. By the way, it's a pretty nice read. You should check it out. It's quite interesting, at least. So here's the thing. I remember when I was in a relationship, I'd actually try to negotiate desire. I would say things like, hey, if I do the chores, if I wash dishes, if I worked out these deals, where if I did some.
Guys, I have to comment on that before I actually forget, because that is a very, very great point. A lot of guys think, just like I said in the beginning, girls' emotions, they change over time. Look, when a woman loves you, she will treat you like a king. When she hates you, she will try to destroy you. Okay? So, and the thing is, like you said, people change. The woman that you marry 15 years down the road is not going to be the same person. Ask Dr. Dre's wife. Ask Dr. Dre. Ask Jeff Bezos, right? Look it up. All these men worth millions of dollars. When their wives married them, everything was great. They were in love, whatever. But down the road, these women are like, no, I want half your net worth, even though they were not, you know? And guys, do you think these men didn't cater to their women, like lavish them with gifts? Of course, right? Of course. This is a very important point. It's like I always say, there is no such thing as relationship equity. A lot of people think, oh, well, I've done all this for her, so she's gonna. Guys, trust me, right? You cannot negotiate feelings or attraction. If she loses attraction for you, it's done. That's why I say, that's why it's very important. Get a prenup before you even go into this. You cannot, guys, you cannot say, I'm gonna be the best person that I can be for this person, and then, guys, her emotions and how she feels about you cannot be negotiated. Today she could love you, tomorrow some other dude is gonna change her world, and she's gonna forget about you, right? So this is why it's very important. Why it's very important. This topic is super important. Okay, let's continue.
I think that my expectation was that my partner would like me. Although when you really think about it, you cannot generate desire that way, right? And the same thing really goes with communication. A lot of people say that communication and understanding is the basis of a relationship. Although when you think about it, understanding, communicating, talking, none of that is going to generate desire between two people. And when there's no desire, then really what do you have in a relationship? You've got two people who are negotiating deals, business deals, really. And that's not strong enough for a relationship. And what I think I needed to realize is that while men may be able to get in the mood at the snap of a finger, like I can get into the mood while debugging assembly code, women really need more romance. They need all the candles and the mood and the right environment. And they need you to actually help create that environment. You're not going to be able to create that environment through, say, communication, compromise, or coming up with some negotiation business deal. All right, moving on to tip number 3, which is that people change over time. And it turns out that I was reading this book called The Meaning of Marriage by Timothy Keller.
So guys, to wrap it up, I mean, there's still, I think, 5 more minutes in the video. If you want to go watch it, watch the rest of the video. I'm going to leave a link in the description box below. I don't want this video to get too long. But the first part, he hit on very important points, right? Very important points. Having a prenup. Desire cannot be negotiated, right? There is no such thing as relationship equity, right? So you have to understand these things. The point of this video is, I am not saying you shouldn't get married. What I am saying is that if that is what you are planning on doing, or cohabitating with somebody, which I advise not to do, I will say this. Before going into it, get a good understanding of what will happen if this thing ends. What we always think is, when we hear about, 50% of divorces, 50% of marriages end in divorces, we always think, oh, okay, the bad percentage, I'm not going to be part of it, I'm not going to be the 50% that gets divorced. I'm going to be the 50% that stays married forever. Guys, we have to get rid of this thinking, okay? If something can happen to somebody, it can happen to you, so you have to protect yourself, okay? It's just like insurance, car insurance, health insurance. You're an awesome driver, great driver, but somebody may still hit you. That's why you get car insurance, right? Again, health insurance. you're a healthy person, you're eating your vegetables, vitamins, working out every day, but something happens, you slip and fall, break your hip, now you need the insurance, right? You could do everything right, but you still need that insurance, right? Because desire cannot be negotiated. A prenup will help you. You need that prenup, okay? Make sure you get that prenup, okay? Guys, that is the video for today. If you have not already, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you don't miss any of my future videos. Okay, with that, I'll see you guys on the next one. Like the video. Any comments that you guys have, leave it for me in the comment section below. I love interacting with you guys down there. Peace.